Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Align, where we help you align with your true self, others, and your desired outcome to live your best life. Today we have a very special dear friend of mine, Luke, who I actually was very surprised. So we recently caught up, Luke. You knew about the Align experience, which I threw, and the premise of that was I'm really sick of people saying there are no good men or no good women in the city. And so I was like, well, let me run an experiment and let me vet out over 300 people for 50 spots and pick out all the eligible bachelors and bachelorettes across my friendship groups, across work, across different industries, and basically create experience for them to make genuine connections. And when I was telling you about it, you were telling me about this dating journal that you're working on. I was actually very surprised the similarities between the journal that you wrote a book about and also the questionnaire or the matching element of my experience. So I think first off, the most important thing is, the idea of this dating journal. How did you come about it? So that everyone kind of knows as well. Luke may look familiar to you because he's been on a reality show called Dating Around. He was literally plastered all over New York City and then some. Like you couldn't miss him anywhere for a period of time. So did that inspire you to have this dating journal? Talk to us about this idea.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Jessica. Glad to be here and to chat with you about this. I was also very surprised, with how much what I'm working on aligns with what you're doing. Um, where this came from stemmed from Dating Around, the Netflix show that I was on. And when I was on that show, people started asking me questions about dating and asking me advice. And just because I was on a dating show, they thought I had the answers when I really didn't. But because so many people were asking me these questions, I felt obligated to find answers for them. So that's sort of what led me to start in on this journey of writing the dating journal and take an approach to dating that would actually be helpful instead of just hitting on buzzwords that are relevant in the dating scene today. I noticed that a lot of dating books are helpful for certain segments of dating, but nothing that really encaptures what's truly important when it comes to finding somebody to be with. So it was through that process that I started to have the idea of building the dating journal into something that would actually be a values-based approach to dating and something where we're looking at people being intentional.
Got it. Okay. So I think just so everyone's more aware of this book and how it's structured, what it's like, what is it? I know there's different sections as well. Can you just kind of walk us through the journey of this dating journal?
Yeah, so it's a guide to encourage a more mindful dating experience, a values-based approach to dating. You could almost call it a workbook because a lot of it is prompts to where I'm going through sections about your past, your present, your future, the mindset to have, and then the last half of the book is actually space for you to journal about your dates after you go on them. Um, so each of these sections are important for different reasons. One of my favorite from the book is the future section.
Mm,
In that section, I talk about creating a vision for your love life, because we do this in all other aspects of our life, for in business, uh, in the gym, for our health. But for dating, which is one of the most important aspects, finding a partner, one of the most important aspects of life, we rarely create a very procured vision of what we want. And so in this process, I have in this process of this section to where being very specific about who and what your future relationship and life looks like with this person.
love that. So to your point about being more intentional, I think given my life coaching practice, right, I've definitely noticed after 2020 and COVID, there's been a huge shakeup between like people who say, am I in the right relationship? Am I in the right marriage? Actually, I do want to be something real. I don't want to just be playing around anymore, right? To the point of being more intentional. I've definitely seen that people are more woke and thoughtful about how they're approaching dating and not just, it's not just a revolving door, a weekly kind of new fling or thing. And the ones who've been in very long-term relationships are really questioning, is this the right person for me? Right.
Mhm.
And I think you hit it on the head of the nail, where it's so important, I think, in our business life, in our career, when it comes to fitness, right? We meal prep. We write down all the classes we want to take. We write down all the reps we want to do. In business, we have all the projects and milestones. We write things out, like literally write things out. We plan, right? The one area that I feel a lot of people don't plan or kind of think through what they really want is, to your point, is our love lives, right? And I don't know if you've kind of done this yourself. It seems like you probably have as well. Personally, for me, I was had a string of just dating the wrong person, but over and over again, there were similarities where I've noticed patterns of like there's very specific traits that they all had. And it came down, I just don't have a victim mindset. I take full responsibility for my life. And I thought, well, just the common denominator of all these relationships is you. So it wasn't until I literally wrote down like all my past relationships, all
Mhm.
the pros, all the cons, and found all the common themes that I was able to realize, oh, there's a pattern I need to break. These are the things that I'm attracting. And then I went a step further, say, what am I putting out there? What am I doing to attract these things? And the most
Mhm.
important question, in my opinion, is why am I attracted to those things? And oftentimes I realize
Right.
it's inside, right? There's things about myself that I'm seeking in others that I haven't healed in myself. I haven't figured out in myself, right? I'm just trying to get it through other people, external relationships. So I think it's super important. I think it's great that you're creating this journal to be more intentional. And just wondering, like, did you have any, when you were going on dates before you wrote this dating journal, did you have a habit of writing things down, or things kind of changed for you when you went on that show?
No, I didn't. I'd never done this before, but to your point, it's not until you actually reflect on your past and what we get so caught up in the day to day that it's just easy to forget things that seem irrelevant to us, right? If we meet someone that we don't really hit it off with, we kind of forget about that. But it is important to reflect on those experiences too, because they matter just as much as the good experiences do. Um, a lot of figuring out what we want is by knowing what we don't want. And um and to your point too, it's with creating a plan, having the vision, it's very applicable to your dating. It's applicable in a lot of ways, but to your dating life especially, it's the same thing. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And so applying that to your love life is very important. So yeah, I mean, sorry, what was your initial
No, it's
question
okay.
from
I
from
asked
the
you,
end?
did you have you written things out and kind of
Oh, right.
journal before you created the book? All good.
Yes. No, I didn't. And I think that's when I was going through this process of figuring out, okay, what do I actually find most helpful? What advice would I give to people?
Mhm.
Then that's where I discovered this process of being more intentional and looking back. So I ended up doing the same thing that you did after I had really researched what I found to be more helpful to people.
Yeah.
And by reflecting and journaling, I found that I was discovering my own behavior and the behavior of the people that I would choose to go on dates with. And it was illuminating. Like it's, you learn a lot about yourself by simply writing things down, writing down your experiences. And you hear it all the time. But I think the people who actually put it into practice, they know that it works and that it's very simple and useful tool.
Hmm. I love that. And I would say putting pen to paper always makes you more committed to it, right? The act of writing it down, it just kind of triggers your body to be like, okay, I'm taking this very seriously now. I'm going to do it, typing it, writing it, whatever. But I don't know if you've heard of this, but in the more, I would not say spiritual world, but the traction or the law of attraction world, they always say that it's called spelling because you're putting a spell on it, right? So if you say, like, for example, you write out negative things or you say negative things, you'll attract it, right? You write out positive things or what you want, and you say those things about your life, yourself, and whatnot, a partner that you want, you're going to attract it. So I think that's what, like, personally for me, I'm not a really big pen and paper kind of gal. I'm more of like a typing everything out and planning in that way. I think I shared this with you. I did that whole audit of my past relationships and I was very intentional. I wrote out my dream man list and I
Right.
like wrote it out, was very intentional, clear about it, and I just left it alone. Right. So
Yeah.
the rule of the law of attraction is kind of three steps. You're very familiar with this. First is ask, right? So figure out what you want. Second step is to believe that it exists, and like truly believe in your heart and soul that not only does it exist, you deserve it and you will have it. And then the third is actually the hardest part for a lot of people like you and I who are hustlers. It's the art of receiving or allowing versus feeling need to like hustle for it, right? So
Right.
receiving is just now that you've written it out, you really believe in it, let it go. just like put it away, do your life, do your thing, and be intentional, right? I'll never forget my past relationship. It was like a year. I wrote that list, call it a year before I was dating this guy. And I was like, let me just look back on that list. I was just going through my like notes. So let me go on the list. It was scary. My ex had every single quality on that list minus one. And that one was something so like he likes art, like R&B music is his favorite type of music. I was like, I can live
Okay.
without that, right? But it just
Mhm.
shows you that I was like, oh my God, dear, you have like literally
Yeah.
everything on this list, but you won't attract that unless you're super clear, right? And I think that's why a huge part of the line experience that I put together in January was that, listen, there are plenty of amazing people in this world. It's about filtering, right? For the right things. It's beyond
Yeah.
height, it's beyond status, it's beyond looks, it's beyond money. It's soul level, it's values. Are you going to be growing the same speed? Are you going to be growing the same direction? I think that's super important, right? So I think it's amazing you're doing this. So talk to me a little bit about like, can you give us a little bit more a color on like the sections? Are there like chapters or what's the process like in the dating journal?
Yeah, sure. And just to hit on the last point that you said,
Yeah.
one thing that I tell people all the time is that your conscious mind makes the decision and then your subconscious mind does the work for you. And it has a lot to do with what you just, when you wrote down the qualities that you wanted in somebody, then a year later, your ex had all these qualities. And it's real stuff, like a very easy exercise that I tell people when I'm talking about this and they're asking me advice. Like, look, take a piece of paper, write down the qualities, fold it up, put it in your wallet or purse, and just like keep it there. And it's just a simple act of writing it and keeping it with you all the time. And some people do that. You've heard of people writing themselves checks and dating them a year or two in advance. And then, like Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $5 million. And then 2 years later, he creates The Mask and his paychecks, or he gets 5 million for it or whatever, but it's the same thing. So I love that. And that's something that I really believe in.
Got it.
Um, so to dig more into the chapters I have, like I said before, there are 6 sections. The first is on your past. This is where it's important because kind of along the lines of you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been, and it elaborates on that idea as it relates to your dating life, and it's more about, okay, let's just remember where we came from, like the little things. It's just sparking interest, or sparking these ideas of in your memory of who you have dated in the past, and what led you to be where you are today. So there's prompts and questions that are walking you through to rediscover this. This next section is on your future, or I'm sorry, on your present. And this is where we really dig into who you are now. What are your preferences? What sort of, what does your dating life look like right now? And then we go into your values, choosing or discovering what your values are and actually writing it out, and understanding why you value those things. And it correlates to some questions that we have the reader answer in their past, because a lot of what we value is determined on things that happened in our past. The future section, really just diving into our vision and creating a very clear understanding of what we want. And actually, I have a piece in the future section where it's a blank page where I give the instruction to, give a synopsis, like a quick five details of the person that you want to be with. Tear that page out, put it in your wallet or purse, and keep that with you. And then the next section is on mindset, and that's really diving into being intentional. It's just sort of like the tips of the book a little bit. And the last section is journaling, and explaining how to go through and journal and how to reflect on your dates properly, how to answer the prompted questions afterwards, and in order to learn the behavior of yourself and the behavior of others. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. And I created this so it's very clean, because a lot of the dating journal or dating books that you read, there's just so much information. But I mean, where we're at right now, it's a lot of us know all these things already. Like we know more about red flags. We know we've been through it, right? But it's a clean way to actually do the work. And so the dating journal is requiring people to actually do the work.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree with you, especially about the past, present, and future. It was funny because we were chatting over lunch about the sections. I was like, Luke, that's literally what I do when I have a coaching session with my clients. Like when they're
Mm,
coming to me for romantic reasons, right? It's the same process. Expanding a little bit more on the history or the past section, I always ask them two things. First is, what was your relationship with your parents? Right?
mhm,
What did you learn about their relationships? Because your parents are your first teachers,
right.
for better or worse, right? The way that they're the first ones that you learned about love and things. Before you went to school, you had your parents or whoever your caretakers were, right? So what did you learn about relationship through your caretakers? And then the second thing is also, what were the shows? What were the reality shows? What were the Disney movies? What are the things that you watched growing up that also influenced you, right? So, I mean, women
That's
always say
interesting.
this, right? In American society, like I was definitely brainwashed by Disney. Let's be clear, right? Like
Sure.
I grew up thinking there was going to be a shiny knight in armor coming to save me from, I don't know, my evil stepmom and my like Cinderella, right? Or I
Mhm.
was going to be, put in a coma until a man kisses me like Sleeping Beauty. Or there was always something that made me feel like I had to be rescued. And I didn't realize, for example, why I resonated so much with Mulan when I was young, right? Because initially I thought, oh, she's Chinese. I get it. Same thing, right? Always want to, honoring the family, like always want to be the one like to carry the last name for all that stuff. But it was actually the first Disney movie where I felt like the woman she was in charge of her destiny, right? She was the one she wasn't looking for the shiny knight. She just kind of fell and found him because she was just doing her. But yeah, so it's like things like that. You ask yourself, like, what story about relationships were you brainwashed to believe, and which
Mhm.
ones it resonated with you the most? That's really helpful because you'll realize the way you were shaped when you were young is why you date what you date now, which is why you want what you want in the future, right?
Yeah, of
And a
course.
lot and elaborating on current, right? To your point, like, what are you looking for now? What do you want, right? The second question I always ask people is why. And
Mhm.
like, for example, one common thing that I hear from women, it's like, oh, I want him to have money. I'm like, okay, why? Right. And layers underneath it. It's not really about the money. It's about the stability and the sense of protection, is this the sense that you will be taken care of. Right. So when I
Yeah.
ask the question, okay, what if he's a billionaire, but if a robber were to come in, he would run the other way?
Mm.
Do you feel protected and safe, right? So it's just like digging a little deeper as to like why you want what you want. Chances are it's not the superficial item, right? It's not the status, not the money. It's a sense of protection. It's a sense of I'll be taken care of. It's a sense of like my man will be there for me, right? So just I would just encourage people, when you do the dating journal, have the superficial what you want, and you're allowed to want what you want. We deserve everything that we want if we're willing to work for it, right? And we're good people. But then ask yourself why you want those things. You'll actually learn more about yourself. So I love that. And I want to be mindful, like obviously it's coming out March 14th, so really soon. Few questions is, I know for a fact it's going to help a lot of people. I would say, I don't mean to be sexist, but women spend so much brain damage thinking through their relationships and going over and over and over again with their girlfriends. Guys
Mhm.
sometimes can go into man cave, right? So I definitely feel like I definitely encourage the guys to go out and get this book and explore things in the private of your own home and comfort, right? And if you feel comfortable creating like a unit of guy friends to kind of share experiences, great. But where can people find this book? Where can people find you? And then more importantly, is, are there any fun events and things going on around the book that we should be mindful of?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. So again, I think that, like you said, I mean, I didn't write this to target men, or, men or women. It's really for both. My editor is female,
Mhm.
and so between the two of us, I think we made it, just very clean, very approachable by men or women.
Yep.
And so I think guys can get a lot of good use out of this. Um, and yeah, I'm excited for it to help, both men and women. But you can find me on Instagram at Luke Hawksworth. The dating journal is going to be sold on Amazon. Primarily, that's where you can go to pre-order, which should be up on March 7th. It'll be available for direct purchase on March 14th. And we're still working on figuring out which bookstores physical copies are going to be in, but I would suggest it's Amazon on March 14th. Um, and as far as events go, I will be having a launch in New York at the end of March. I'm securing a date right now, so we can circle back on that. But I will be having a fun launch party, and I think it's going to be worth going to. I mean, the majority of people are going to be my close friends and also singles people. You're going to have purchased the book in order to enter. So
I love that.
yeah, it'll be fun. I'll keep you posted.
I love that. Just an idea, and I don't know if you are going to require people to kind of get the book and work on it. I think it would be really cool, and I'm happy to. I just happy to even think about ways that we can work together and collab. But having people write in the journal and then sharing it, right? Like creating a safe space, like people opting in, obviously, and creating either like mini groups and whatnot during that event, and like sharing it and having someone guide them through, like, okay, these are the experiences, ask them a little bit of deeper. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like a coaching session per se or a therapy session, but it's more of a smaller seminar, so to speak, so people kind of can share their stories, share their truths. And I feel we oftentimes learn a lot about ourselves through other people. So as say you share something that happened to you, or one of your prompts, I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that's why I acted a certain way, that's why I feel a certain way, right? And if people think that people can learn from each other, so that's
Absolutely.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. I always wrap up with asking all my guests, I really do think that everyone has a unique gift, that like when you unlock it, you find it, you really add value to humanity and your community. So what do you think, Luke, is your unique gift?
Mm, my unique gift.
Yeah.
I'm a huge people person. I've always been with a lot of different groups. So
Yeah.
I think some of my friends, they're like, you're the only person that can go hang out with, I don't know, spend time on Fifth Avenue with people who are like going to the opera and involved in art, but also hang out downtown with the kids who are partying in Lower East Side and whatever the case may be. So I know a lot of people. I enjoy getting to know a lot of people, and one thing that I believe in is the power of giving. Sort of I really think life is about giving. Like the more you give, the more you get, and it's just with all the groups that I'm around and people I surround myself with, I'm just constantly thinking of like how can I love these people more, and how can I add value to their lives? And I think by doing that, it's very satisfying.
Love that. And I just want to say thank you for your depth. And I was actually very shocked. I told you this when I first met you. I was like, wow, he's so youthful and like deep for his age. I'm like so confused. And you also lived in LA, you spent time here, like you've been in very like metropolitan cities. But that's something that I just want to say thank you, because I feel a lot of guys your age, at our age, just don't like, whether they're just so focused on the career section and just gunning after status and, wealth or whatnot, which is all fine things. I feel like meeting someone like you who have that depth and thinks so long term and thinks so much about relationships is so unique. So I just want to say thank you for, first of all, being you. And then thank you for applying that and creating this dating journal, because I know a lot of people are definitely going to benefit from it. And so get ready for all the epiphanies that you're going to inspire to people.
I appreciate that.